What's going on, guys? And welcome back to week 5 of the Mark and Graham podcast. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and follow us on Twitter at Mark and Graham _podcast. Follow us, subscribe. Let us know what you think of these videos, guys. We are in week 5. I am at school at the University of South Florida. Mark is in Philadelphia, yet to go back to Monmouth, but yet we are here to bring you the latest and most updated news in the sports world. So, Mark, let's have a recap of last week, just in case people forgot what we talked about.
Yeah, definitely. This week was a really fun episode all around. We covered a lot of ground, starting with the Little League World Series, where that just ended recently. The U.S. team took it home. First ever Louisiana squad comes in and wins. Yeah, the first time Louisiana ever played in the Little League World Series, and they take it all home. Then we move on with some talk with Ronald Acuna, who continued to roll after the benching. We talked about some MLB awards picks. Moved forward to our odd man out, which was NFL power rankings. We previewed the NFL season a little bit, and we ended it with our Mark and Graham of the day, just like we will today. It's going to be a really fun episode today. We have a lot to talk about. We're really excited about it.
Again, that is at Mark and Graham _podcast, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Like our stuff, subscribe. It's good content, I promise. All right, so we're going to get started with a clown of the day. And Mark, I'm going to let you go first because mine's a little bit longer.
All right, so I'm going to start with a clown of the day that a lot of you can probably relate to if you watched the game. But just college football in general, in my opinion, made a huge mistake this season by starting with week 0. And for those of you that don't know, week 0 was this college football promotion this year to play one huge college game day a week before Labor Day, before week 1 of the college football season, and it counts. And on Saturday, Miami and Florida showed off in the Battle of Florida, which I guarantee Graham has something to say about that because USF should be in that battle, right?
That's right, we should.
The real Battle of Florida is USF, UCF, according to Graham.
No, that's the best rivalry, I'm telling you.
But this game, it seemed really obvious from the opening kick that the teams weren't as prepared as they should be for that ball game, and it was because they were playing a week earlier than every other team. They had a week less of practice time, and it showed. There were, I think, it felt like 6 fumbles in that game and in crucial situations. And it almost seemed like whoever had the ball last was going to lose rather than win. That's the way the feel of the game had. And Felipe Franks, the quarterback for University of Florida, how does he have a job? He is horrendous. He threw a pass with the lead late in the game, an interception that it was just mind-blowing. Like, he actually threw into triple, maybe quadruple coverage when they had the lead and almost gave Miami a shot of coming back in the game. They just seemed unprepared, unprofessional, and it was not an impressive showing for college football, who did somehow break records with their viewers. And it just shows, I think, how much this country is dying for football right now.
Now, before I give mine, I really feel strongly about this. I would like to rewind this 4 years ago when the Miami turnover chain, it didn't exist. Let's pretend that never was a thing. I'd like to see how many Miami fans there are now. I'd like to see if Miami would actually be in this game because I'm going to be real with you. I think everyone wants to see Miami because of this turnover chain. They got a first-year coach who signed for Temple, didn't even finish the deal, came back to Miami, so he obviously felt like something was special there. But I'm sorry, I don't give a damn about your turnover chain. I don't give a damn about your touchdown chain either, Florida. It takes away from the football game. It takes away from everything. Listen, it was a great game in my opinion. It came down to the wire. It's college football. It's exciting. Yeah, obviously it was very sloppy. A lot of fumbles. But again, that's what college football is. You're never going to see a game that sloppy in the NFL. And, sloppy could mean exciting for, the home team. And I think that's what it was. But like Mark said, I think this week 0 thing, it's just another example of how corrupt the NCAA is. because again, they're using college athletes the way they want. And, maybe these college athletes needed a week to prepare. Maybe these coaches needed a little more time to prepare. Because, next week, when week one starts, teams are going to come out firing because they've been practicing, they've been waiting, they're hungry. And, Miami and Florida already played. And I think, again, from a promotional standpoint, yes, college football is back. We love college football. But I think it's doing, college football to me is a tradition. And I think, college game day, that's a tradition. And I think, starting this new thing, it's just a little weird, being 20 years old, seeing how it's been done, Curb Streak, Lee Corso, the masks and everything. And I think that's how college football should be. But we're going to talk about my clown of the day, and it's really, really personal, and I'm not happy about it at all. I actually called Mark about it today. My school has cut funding for the radio program. And if any of you don't know, I don't know if I've mentioned this, because, this is, the Mark and Graham podcast, not my other stuff. But I run a radio show at school. It's called Running with the Bulls. And it's a multimedia, or it's a multi-platform radio show, music, sports, travel, you name it. We have it. And, yeah, they cut our funding. And essentially they told me today, they said for the next few weeks, there will be no shows. And it hurt, Mark. And I think this was a wake-up call to me. I was pissed.
I mean, it hits home with me as well. And that's because I'm somebody that what I want to do in my life, like, this is why we have the Mark and Graham podcast. We both want to be in this industry. And for as much of you that watch this and it's just a hobby and you love sports and you love listening to us, we're people that are trying to make a career out of it. And if it wasn't for the generation of kids like us who want to become the next Adam Schefter, the next Stephen A. Smith, the next Max Kellerman, where are you going to get your sports news? And there's such a market for this that people don't realize. And it's really just a shame that universities who take all of our money and have all the money they could possibly deal with, that they waste on God knows what. And they're going to cut funding for such a creative avenue of the college generation. The radio program gives students so many opportunities, and not just sports, music, politics, business. And I just think colleges are making a big mistake by cutting funding in these types of areas. And it's really not fair to students like Graham and I.
I'm going to just wrap this up in one brisk statement. I'm paying $35,000 to go to school here. And I'll say that. I'm not ashamed of that. Who the hell are you to tell me, who came to school for broadcast news, radio, television, who the hell are you to tell me that I can't do a radio show? When you have studios, when you have microphones, when you have equipment, you have your own nationally broadcasted station. This was a nationally broadcasted radio show. Mark could have listened to it. Anyone could have listened to it. Who the hell are they to tell me I can't do it? I'm sorry, but I needed to vent. And I think that it's BS. I think that, this is an eye-opener for guys like me and Mark. And, this is a business, and I hate to say it, but, I'll be the first one to admit radio's dying. But it's guys like us that pick it up and save it. And I think there's such little of us anymore. Why would you kick that out? They took what I love and they basically just, sat on it, and that's it. And it's just a shame, Mark.
But the reality of the situation is you have that much to be thankful for, in the sense that we started the Mark and Graham podcast. We're getting our words out there, whether you have your show or not. And that's what's so great about podcasting, is nothing will ever stop us from doing this, getting that content out there for our fans. And you guys just keep listening and spreading the word for us, because, yeah, radio could be dying, journalism could be dying, but me and Graham are going to be doing this regardless of all of that. We don't care, and we know that there's a market for it. We know that you guys are out there listening, caring about what we're saying. And sports is the one area I truly believe of broadcast and journalism that will never die because of how much people can't get enough of the sports world, just like Graham and I.
As Philadelphia's Meek Mill once said, hold up, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished. Okay, moving on from that, Adam Schefter has been taking a beating for how he broke the news about Andrew Luck's retirement. And I think, you could look at this from both sides. Now, from a professional standpoint, this is how I feel. When you get that story, you have to post it. It's one of those businesses where you don't care about feelings. You need to get your information out, and that's how Adam Schefter did it. He's one of the best in the business. Fun fact, my dad actually went to sleepaway camp with Adam Schefter, stayed in the same bunk and everything. And Schefter's always been like a huge Michigan fan. My dad always telling me about that. He went to Michigan. Not my dad, Adam Schefter. They went to camp together. But so yeah, that's how I feel about it. Mark?
Well, basically, Andrew Luck had planned on announcing his retirement. First, he was going to tell his teammates after the preseason game that was played on Saturday night. And he was going to let the news be leaked overnight, basically pull a Kawhi Leonard and have the news come out in the middle of the night, which, I mean, if you know Andrew Luck and you know Kawhi Leonard, like their personality, those are about as boring guys as you can possibly have. So it makes sense what he wanted. And his press conference was planned for Sunday. Well, Schefter gets a hold of these news at halftime, I believe, of the Colts preseason game and breaks it in the third quarter. And, I mean, I saw a clip of Jacoby Brissett talking to Andrew Luck on the sideline, and it looks like Luck tells him the news right then, and Brissett's face is just like his jaw drops. And I think as somebody that wants to get into this industry, you can't fault a guy like Adam Schefter, who is the best in the business, somebody that both of us look up to because he is so good at what he does. And players respect him. They do. He gets so much information from players because they know he's not out there for malicious reasons. But I think these news, because they were so hard-hitting with Andrew Luck's injury and the fan base, and I think that's why it's getting so much criticism, is because it wasn't news that the Colts signed a new kicker. It was somebody's career who he's on billboards all over the city. He's beloved by that city. And it was really heartbreaking watching him walk off the field after the game and the fans just booing him. And you have to think that probably doesn't happen if it wasn't for Adam Schefter breaking it when he did, because you know how fans are. We're both fans, and you act on instinct. And I'm going to be honest, if I was at that game and my home team quarterback announces that in the middle of the game, you have no idea where your emotions are going to take you. We're diehard fans of our football teams, and I just think if Schefter had broke the news after the game, he's not getting booed at the next preseason game because fans have time to get over it and cope with it. Whereas when it's in the middle of a game, you're asking for an unfair treatment of a guy that gave his all to that city.
Now, I'm going to challenge you here. Let's rewind it back to Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Kevin Durant tears his Achilles. The crowd cheering. Now, to me, I think that's worse. Do I think, like you said, we're fans. We act on impulse. It's what it is. I think Andrew Luck, can't take that personally. Like if I was in the middle of watching a Giants game and I found out, and let's just say Odell was still on the team, And I was, at the game, and I found out Odell said that he wanted to leave the Giants in the middle of the football game. You think I'm going to sit there and cheer for Odell for the rest of the game and then wait until after? No, it's just, you know, and maybe the fans didn't really understand the full situation, but you can't look at that and be like, wow, I can't believe they're doing that. Like you said best, we act on impulse. That's just me.
Yeah, I agree more with that. And I mean, we got into how the news were broke. We got into how the fans reacted, but let's just talk a little bit about Andrew Luck and his career and what your thoughts are about his retirement, because I have strong beliefs on it. I'm totally on his side, and I've had a problem with the way he's getting grouped with the likes of Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson, because he retired because of injury. It wasn't because he was sick of playing on a bad team. And this Colts team, I mean, we did that segment last week, Odd Man Out, power rankings for the NFL. I had the Colts as my sixth team, and they've been considered a dark horse Super Bowl team all offseason with Andrew Luck in mind. And he really had a shot with this team. And I think his injuries have got to be affecting him so much to give up on that opportunity.
It's before I talk about Andrew Luck, if you want to look at the Colts within the past 10 years, they've had a really, really tough time since that Super Bowl win. Peyton Manning hurts his neck. He's out a whole season. They go 1-15. Manning goes to the Broncos, wins another Super Bowl. You really don't think about the Colts. Then Chuck Pagano gets cancer in the middle of the season. 2 years, 2 years into the next season. They make a coaching switch. Bruce Arians comes in. The Colts have always overcome adversity. Now I'm talking about Luck. The first time that I really looked at Luck and said, wow, this guy's special, was when he came back in that wild card game versus the Chiefs. And they came back, what, Mark? Like 32 points, was it?
Yeah, and the famous fumble play off the offensive line. He recovers it, takes it into his own end zone. Beautiful.
Yeah. So, that's the type of Andrew Luck that I remember. And I've seen videos of Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck's one of the nicest guys in the league. And there's always videos of him complimenting guys after hits. I don't know if you've seen that, Mark. Have you?
Yeah, like after a sack, I've seen him say it to Terrell Suggs, like one of the biggest thugs in the NFL, and he would get sacked by him, actually clobbered in the backfield, and say, "Hey, that was a nice hit, man." Like, he's just as nice of a guy as they come, and I think that's why it also hurts that much more for the football world, is because this is a guy that the sport loved and respected, and he's a Stanford grad. He's not like, he is a smart guy. And honestly, that's another avenue I want to go down and ask you about. Is I've heard this talked a lot about, and if you don't know, that when you get drafted and you go to the combine as a quarterback for the NFL coming out of college, you take this test. I forget the name of it, but quarterbacks always take it, and it's basically an intellectual test to see how smart you are, because quarterback is a tough position. You got to learn a full playbook. You got to read routes. You got to take check downs. Like, you got to know where you're going with the ball. It takes a lot. And Andrew Luck has one of the highest scores ever on this test. He graduated from Stanford with actually, I don't know. Sorry, I don't think he graduated, but he went to Stanford, studied architecture. He's crazy smart. And I've heard this argument that, was Andrew Luck too smart for the NFL? Because I think that a guy like him isn't a guy who's going to throw his body around his entire career. He retired because he knew he's a smart guy and he's not going to give his entire life away for the game of football.
Now, you're 100% right. And I see this going two ways. And before I talk about that, if you really look at how the NFL's been going, and we'll talk about this in our next segment on Man Out, he's not the first one to do this. And I'm having having very struggling thoughts on this because football's losing that like all I want to do is hit mentality. Because guys are more worried about their health. They have families. They don't want to die. They don't want to get CTE. They don't want to hurt themselves. I get that. That's cool. I just think luck is going to end up falling in that Charles Barkley category, like the guy who never got a ring. And I think that it looks great. Threw for over 10,000 passing yards, threw over 11,000 passing yards. He had a great season last year, coming off a playlist season after shoulder surgery. But I just think luck is never going to be put into a group with guys like Breeze, with guys like Rodgers, with guys like Ben, with guys like Brady. Because what separates them is they got a piece of gold on their finger. And here's my take. Either Luck's going to realize in 2 years that he made a mistake and he's going to come back, because we've seen it happen. Brett Favre retires, comes back, leads the Vikings to an NFC title game. It's possible. We've seen it happen. Or he becomes a coach. He's going to be a head coach. I guarantee you, in a matter of years, you're going to see Tony Romo as a head coach. You're going to see Andrew Luck as a head coach. And, guys like Sean McVay aren't going to look that young anymore. And I think youth in coaches is everything because, more relatable to your players. It doesn't feel like you're talking down to them. I don't know, Mark, but I definitely see a head coaching career in Luck's future because, like you said, he's a very smart guy.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. I also had heard a little bit that his retirement might have had something to do with his wife. That they had marital problems. So that could be another interesting avenue where if he was rehabbing all off season for the last 5 years of his career like he has been, you're literally not seeing your wife or your family for 365 days of the year. Because not only are you not seeing them during the season, but when you're injured, there is no off season. You're rehabbing 24/7. So I think he's definitely going to take a couple years to do nothing and focus on his family, focus on his health. But if you think Andrew Luck is going to leave the game of football for good and never be seen again, you're out of your mind. He's going to be back in some form because he's a smart guy. He loves the game of football. And just because your health took away that love for the game for the time being doesn't mean it's going to take it away for the rest of your life.
That is also very true. Andrew Luck retiring at a young age, all of us are surprised. But you look at, like I said earlier, you look at how the NFL's gone. This isn't the first time it's happened, which brings me to my next point, our Odd Man Out segment. So what we're going to do today on Odd Man Out is we are going to rank from 5 to 1, our top 5 best players whose careers got short. And when I say players, it could be football, baseball, it could be anything. It just so happens that my list is all football and Mark's isn't all football. So we're going to start at number 5, and I'm going to go first. Bo Jackson. And, I think a lot of people would say Bo Jackson, even though he didn't really play that many years. He played 4 or 5 years, maybe 6. He was a multi-sport athlete, amazing on the Royals. I don't know if you've seen his baseball highlights, but he literally climbed up a wall during the All-Star game after making a catch. Had 2 home runs in the All-Star game. Him and Deion Sanders are really the only multi-sport athletes. And Bo Jackson, just forget about his numbers. The guy was a freak of nature. If you told me that he could run a 40-yard dash, run Brian Bosworth over, and then play center field in Kansas City, it just doesn't happen. So that's my number 5. Number 4, hoorah, Pat Tillman. So Pat Tillman played 4 years, just 4, in the NFL. Played for the Cardinals. He was a safety. And listen, I'm not gonna shy away from stereotypes here. He was that short, tough white guy that came out of camp, didn't have a position, overlooked, and that's it happens. We see guys like that all the time. Pat Tillman in 4 years in the NFL, 3 interceptions, bunch of tackles. He was a savage. He was one of those side to sideline players. He had a phenomenal career, even though he played 4 years. And unfortunately, in Afghanistan, he was killed during battle, and it supposedly said that he was killed by friendly fire, but that was never confirmed. So, Mark, before I get into my top three, can I hear your 5 and 4?
Yes, you can. My number 5. You just talked about somebody whose career got cut short because of death. You talked about a safety. Makes me think of Sean Taylor. That was my number 5. One of the hardest hitting safeties the league has ever seen. And he was on pace for a Hall of Fame career without a doubt. He was phenomenal. And just to see him die in the prime of his career was heartbreaking for the NFL. It really was. And he was in an era of safeties that were similar to him, hard-hitting guys like Brian Dawkins, Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, and he was right up there with the best of them, if not better than all three of them. So, but the one thing is, I think it was really cool to see those three guys that I just named sort of take Sean Taylor's legacy, and it was almost like every hit that they had throughout their NFL career, like you saw a little bit of Sean Taylor in them. And Sean Taylor brought that to the NFL. He brought that mentality, that toughness, that hard-hitting, hard-nosed football. And you don't really see it as much nowadays, but Sean Taylor made a huge impact on the game of football in the short seasons that he was there.
So what's your number 4?
Number 4, I'm going Yao Ming.
Wow.
I think
Yao Ming out left field.
Yao Ming he's a physical beast that the NBA had never seen. A guy that size, a Taco Fall. The NBA at that time had really never seen that type of player. And maybe you could argue like a Manute Bol. Bol just got drafted. Shout out him. He's a guy that really, talk about changing a sport. He changed basketball for the years that he was there, and it brought a new element to the game. But you have to keep in mind, when you're a physical anomaly like that, something that size, there's injuries that come with it. And unfortunately, that is what cost him his career. He had major health issues because of his height, because of his size, and he was never able to really reach his full potential for those reasons. Still a Hall of Famer, but you're talking about an all-time great possibly if it wasn't for those injuries. But at the same time, I think you have to realize that your stats when you're that size are kind of going to be escalated for the years that you are in the league, knowing that you're not going to last because it's hard to play at that size.
Yeah, so you're definitely right. Yao Ming, first of all, he's great to play with in 2K. Like, unbelievable. So that's always good. But yeah, you're right. I didn't really think much about that. It's just because his career was so short, you didn't really get to see all he could do. Like I said, he never won a championship. So you already had him on your list. So I'm just going to jump right into it. Sean Taylor was my number 3. The guy was just special. You don't come across players like Sean Taylor ever. In literally 4 years, this man had 302 tackles, 241 by himself. He only had 2 sacks, but he was a safety. 8 forced fumbles, 12 interceptions, 242 yards of just total interception offense. Just to put that into perspective. And, Sean Taylor was just one of those guys that could have been a Hall of Famer. And anyone who you ask about Sean Taylor, the guy that drafted him, his teammates, Clinton Portis, anyone, you name it, and they've seen why. So my number 2 is Barry Sanders. And Barry Sanders was literally a human joystick. In a 8-year career, he had 15,300 rushing yards, 99 touchdowns on only 3,070 carries. He had a over 2,000 rushing yard season, and he retired at the age of 31. Mark, I don't know how this man isn't number one, but there's so many athletes that retire before 31. Did you just listen to those stats I read off about Barry Sanders?
Phenomenal. And that made him. I mean, I couldn't hear enough about him when I was a kid because he was my dad's favorite athlete of all time. My dad loved him. Went to at the time Barry Sanders came to Lincoln Finance, or sorry, it was the Vet back then, to play the Eagles. My dad would go into the game. He loved to watch him so much, and he was like you, a human joystick. He could move like no other. But I think when we talk about Andrew Luck and what happened with his career, it's Barry Sanders was much different than that in the sense that it wasn't injuries that made him retire early. It was that he was never on a winning team. The Lions always sucked, and he was sick of it. And I do lose a little bit of respect for a guy like that, but you have to also keep in mind that sports were different then, and it's not the way it is now where you can be an Antonio Brown or you can be a Russell Westbrook and talk your way out of town when you want to get traded. It wasn't like that then, and people forget that. But ultimately, Barry Sanders' greatness feeds into the fact that he was on a terrible team. He made this with a bad offensive line, with a team that didn't have anything else. And I think that can make you that much greater when you are the star of a bad team.
You're right. And I think what you just said was the perfect example of my number one on the same team, Calvin Megatron Johnson. He played 9 seasons, almost 12,000 receiving yards. He averaged about 16 yards per catch, Mark, 83 touchdowns in 9 seasons as a wide receiver. I don't know about you, but Megatron in my lifetime was the most dominant wide receiver I have ever seen play. And for that reason, he is my number one.
I would agree with that. Calvin's my number 3 on my list. I'm going to get to that after we wrap it up with your odd man out. But Calvin Johnson, like, there's no debating it. We talked about our all-decade teams. He was somebody that we both wanted. And I've never seen a receiver dominate the game the way he did. A combination of size, of speed, of make you miss ability. It was phenomenal to watch. And I just, like we talked about with Barry Sanders, who I didn't get the chance to watch, I would have loved to see Calvin Johnson play on a winning team. He made it in the playoffs a couple times in his career, but not enough. And I think it got in his head. He was sick of it. And you have to, I guess, respect that because we aren't NFL athletes. We don't know what it's like to lose every year and have a once every 2 years.
So let's hear your numbers 1 and 2.
My number 2, if you've ever seen the movie The Express, great film, go watch it. It's all about the University of Syracuse and a player by the name of Ernie Davis. He was a Heisman Trophy winner, I believe. He might have. I know he was one of the first African Americans to ever win the Heisman, but he came to the NFL right after Jim Brown.
Is that a Reggie Bush jersey?
No, this is
Vince
Carson Palmer. No name on it.
Honestly, because you said underperforming Heisman winner, and I thought that was a Reggie Bush jersey.
Wow.
Ouch.
Anyway, so.
Yeah, but and you know what? It's not like it counted anyway.
True. Still a stud though. Still USC.
Ish. So yeah, keep going. Let's hear it.
Ernie Davis, though, phenomenal player. He followed the footsteps of the great Jim Brown. went to Syracuse right after Jim Brown did, tore up every record, won the Heisman Trophy, comes into the NFL, gets drafted by the Browns to fulfill the shoes of Jim Brown, and gets diagnosed with AIDS, dies. And I don't know if he even played a game in the NFL, but
Wow.
he was a phenomenal college athlete, broke so many records. People talk about him all the time as one of the biggest what if stories in sports. The movie, you have to go watch it. It's phenomenal. Not only do they cover his death, his illness, but also the fact that he was a black player entering a college football scene that didn't have many. And they talk about him playing down south and having to sleep in different hotels as his teammates, eat at different restaurants. It's really an eye-opening film. I highly recommend it. But Ernie Davis, shine some light on his name. Give him a shout out. And my number one is Jose Fernandez. In my opinion, he had some of the nastiest stuff I have ever seen in Major League Baseball. He was nasty, filthy. And I would have just loved to see his full career because I think he was going to be a Hall of Famer. And the craziest thing about him is had he not died in the tragic boat accident that we all know about, there were drugs involved and nobody really knows what happened, but it's an unfortunate circumstance. But had that not happened, there's a point to be made that the Marlins never rebuilt. And just take a minute to look at the squad the Marlins would have if Jose Fernandez had never died. You could be looking at Jose Fernandez, Giancarlo Stanton, Christian Yelich, Marcell Ozuna, JT Realmuto. They traded to the Phillies, best catcher in the league.
D. Gordon.
D. Gordon is on that team. Like, that is scary.
It's a good team.
That's
And they're managed by Don? Was
Don
Don
Mattingly.
managed?
Yes.
Don Mattingly, who's a Yankee.
Great coach, too.
And so that, before we keep going, Mark just sparked something in my head. If you think we should do a best sports movies odd man out next week, comment, subscribe, let us know. Just gotta save that idea. I don't want to lose that one, but that's good.
I like that.
So I just lost my train of thought, but that's okay because it's sports and we can talk about anything with sports. But my odd man out is O.J. Simpson. Just had to say it. I think, listen, innocent until proven guilty. Okay? Like, do I think the decision was a little iffy? Yeah. But am I here to give hot takes? Yeah. So do I care? No. Okay. So just wanted to address that elephant in the room. O.J. Simpson had a really good career. He was the juice before the juice got loose. And if you look at his numbers, phenomenal. Almost 12,000 rushing yards, a lot of touchdowns, a lot of success. Like I said, innocent until proven guilty. That is all. That is my odd man out. Mark?
Odd man out. Close to home. I'm going with Allen Iverson. I think that Allen Iverson he's a Hall of Famer and one of the best athletes Philadelphia has ever seen. But he got a lot of issues off the court. A lot. And he had great years in Philly, but he left. And he was kind of forced out of town because of everything that he had off the court and those issues. And although his numbers are phenomenal and his legacy is phenomenal, it's just like if he had the mental awareness and that intellectual side to him where he cared more about the game of basketball and his career, he stays in Philly maybe his entire length. He doesn't miss those years in Denver, in Memphis, in Detroit. And I just think
Memphis.
That's a guy who his career, I mean, it's hard to say his career got cut short when he is still a Hall of Famer and one of the greats of all time. but you could be talking about a top 3 all-time NBA player if he had his head straight and if maybe he stayed in Philly the entire course of his career. I really believe that.
I gotta, I gotta just say one thing. I'm sitting here. I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we talking about practice. We talking about practice. No, 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 no. We ain't talking about a game. We talking about practice. All right, that's all. I'm sorry. I had to do that.
That was well done.
Thank you, thank you. I take acting classes. I'm just kidding. It's pure natural talent.
You have to hear what I'm saying though about Allen Iverson. Like that's a guy that
I agree.
he could have been that. It's crazy to think we're talking about a lot of these guys are all-time greats and already Hall of Famers. But imagine if their careers were longer, how the greatness that we're talking about here. You're talking about the best players in their respective sports if they played longer careers.
It's true. Now, you brought up Iverson's attitude, and like I said, I say this with no clear definition, but like you said, I think Allen Iverson was really, in the 2000s, he broke out, the thug act. And when I say thug, I don't mean it in a derogatory way. I don't mean it in any mean way. I mean just that badass. I don't care what authority says. This is my team, and I do what I want with it. And I think that it got Iverson a lot. Like that step over, like Tyronn Lue. Like I don't care that he won an NBA title with Cleveland. Like he could be the only coach in Cleveland to win a title, and I'll still remember his ass for getting stepped over by Allen Iverson. Like, it's just what it is. And I think Allen Iverson was such a monumental player because he showed players that you don't need to listen to everything that you're told. And I think, you look at guys like Russell Westbrook, had like that give me the ball attitude. I think Iverson really paved the way, even for guys like Kobe. I know him and Kobe really played in the same era, and I know Kobe handles himself a lot differently, but that give me the ball. This is my team, and I think Iverson is a great odd man out because you don't really think of that, and I just think Iverson was a huge culture shift to the NBA. That's all. So we're gonna move on from that. That was our odd man out segment for this week. Mark drafted a fantasy team this year, so I figured I would publicly humiliate his drafting skills on air. So, Mark, let's hear that fantasy team. First, you want to explain how your fantasy league works?
Yeah, so a pretty intense, high stakes league. It's for the most part family, but like it goes out towards my aunts or not my aunt. Well, actually, one of my aunts just joined the league this year. First girl to ever be in our league, and guess who she drafted as her quarterback? Saturday afternoon.
Andrew Luck.
Yes, sir. First ever. That's why girls don't play fantasy football. No, I'm just kidding.
Quarterbacks are losing their fantasy value every day.
I'm just kidding. Shout out Carly. She's starting a fantasy team this year. I'm making her. But anyways, that league is awesome. I got my cousins in it. My second cousin. Shout out to my man Andrew and the Fear the Deer squad. They're nice this year. But we're in a keeper league. You get to keep 3 guys year to year. And they get a 1-year contract. So you can draft them, keep them for the next year, and then they go into the draft pool.
All right, so read off your entire team, and then I'll tell you what I think.
All right. So I'll start with, do you want me to tell? I'll tell you which ones are my keepers, too. My quarterback, it's a 2-quarterback league, too. You get 2 quarterbacks.
High-scoring leagues.
Drew Brees, my number 1 quarterback. He was one of my keepers. Running backs, I got Derrick Henry. Big fan of his this year. My second running back, I'm a little unsure of, but he was the best player available when I got him. little bit of a thug, but he's gonna get the carries. And now he has Nick Foles as his quarterback, Leonard Fournette.
I think Fournette's great. I don't see the problem with Fournette. I I think that the Jaguars they had a very just a year you want to forget. There was no stability at quarterback. Uh, you know, contract disputes, but that defense doesn't look any different from the defense that was a quarter away from beating Tom Brady and the Patriots in the AFC title game. So the offense looks a lot different, but defense, you can always count on Miles Jack. You can always count on AJ Bouye. You can always count on Calais Campbell. You can always count on Jalen Ramsey. Like, I can go on and on. Uh Ungeke, is that his name? The guy, the pass rusher on the opposite side of the end, whatever his name is, but he's really good too. So you're definitely right on that. So keep going.
My number one receiver, he's another one of my keepers from last year. Drew Brees to Mike Thomas combo. Love Mike Thomas.
Love that. Great.
My second receiver, got to get a bird on the squad. I have Alshon Jeffrey. No,
Jeffrey. With you, I think he's ever since Jeffrey had that one good season on the Bears because Marshall, who was supposed to be the primary receiver, wasn't playing as well. So Cutler was like, screw it. I'm going to throw it up to this guy, Alshon Jeffrey. He looks great. And he had that one good year. But in a deep draft, yeah, Alshon Jeffrey's good to add to your team. Definitely not, in my mind, not one of my favorite receivers. But I know Foles loved Alshon Jeffrey. So maybe Carson responds differently. But keep going.
Well, maybe you'll like my bench receiver, too. I got Josh Gordon in the mix, too. I think he's going to have a big year. He's coming up. What?
He's on the Patriots. Anyone on the Patriots is good. It's just what it is.
As long as he can stay off the weed, because otherwise he's going to get a little suspension coming his way. Tight end, I have two guys. I got Njoku. I think he's going to have a breakout year with Baker as his quarterback. That team has a lot of weapons now. He is going to receive a lot of open coverage with all the focus on Juice Landry and Odell. I also have my boy Dallas Goedert. He's Eagles' second tight end, looking for a breakout year off the bench. My second quarterback is Aaron Rodgers, another one of my keepers. So I got Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees.
Kept Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, kept Rodgers, Brees, and Mike Thomas.
Now the thing with Aaron Rodgers is he wasn't himself last year, and so you're really banking on this whole Matt LaFleur thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was struggling up until draft time it's a keeper league, so I could have one of my guys from last year was Melvin Gordon. I could have kept him.
Risky.
Exactly. And
Risky.
What I could have done is my dad's favorite player, he's in the league, my dad, and his favorite player of all time is Aaron Rodgers. And I could have traded Rodgers to him for like a second round pick. And I would have had to keep Melvin Gordon, but I just don't have any faith in Gordon not pulling a Le'Veon Bell at this point and sitting out the whole year, and it just wasn't worth the risk. And the last player, my bench is, I'll read off my bench, just name to name. I got Tevin Coleman. He's starting for the Niners now. I like that pick. Josh Allen as my third quarterback. I have Duke Johnson, whose stock just went through the roof after the Lamar Miller injury. He recently got traded to the Texans. Then I have Larry Fitz, a favorite of mine. I draft him every year. And my last pick was James Washington, who's going to be the number 2 out in Pittsburgh. So I think that's a sleeper you should look for.
No, I've heard a lot of good things about James Washington. And also, Derrick Henry. I had Dion Lewis last year. And Dion Lewis, for the first 6-7 games, phenomenal. And I think it was that game against the Cowboys where people started to realize, this is the first good Alabama back that's come out of Bama since Mark Ingram. And because after Ingram, you had the Trent Richardson, and then you had Ty Yell or TJ Yeldon. Listen, they're good. They're not great. And Derrick Henry, the dude is built like a linebacker, but he's a running back. Like we thought Zeke was big coming out of college. Look at Derrick Henry. The guy's ginormous. So yeah, Derrick Henry. I think that's got to be my low key favorite pick on your team.
All right, I appreciate it. That was actually, keep in mind it's a keeper league, so your first round is actually your fourth round. That was my first round pick. So Derrick Henry, I loved where it was, and I'm happy with how the team turned out. We're gonna keep you guys updated. Graham's draft is coming up soon. When is the date of that?
Next Sunday. I got the fourth pick. Looks like I'm going to be taking Le'Veon. But if he's there, McCaffrey. If he's there.
So after Graham has that draft, we're gonna do the same thing. I'll grade his team this time. And what's your letter grade? Give me a letter grade on how you like my squad.
So honestly, I think like it's a weird. I, I don't like the format of your draft, but I like your team. Just because your bench is like iffy, I'm gonna give it a B minus. But I like the starters.
Uh,
Top to bottom. I also like David Njoku. I think tight ends like him and Evan Ingram are bound for big seasons. You could throw them in the slot. You could throw them on a blocking play. They're just so versatile. And I think we're steering away from the Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gate, Shannon Sharp type. And I think these guys are getting bigger, more athletic, just better to watch too. So before we get to our college spotlight and finish up with Mark and Graham a day, we're going to talk about the Oakland Raiders. And before Mark talks about Hard Knocks, I'm going to just talk about a little Antonio Brown drama, a little update on that. So, he made that statement after the first grievance, and he was like, I can't wait to get back out there with my teammates. And then all of a sudden, he pressed the button, and he filed a second grievance, lost that grievance, and now he's asking for a 1-year period. I don't know if it's been updated yet, but he asked for a 1-year period to get a new helmet. So he's trying to squeeze one more year in with this old helmet. Like, at first I was like, you got to be kidding me. It's a helmet. What is he saying? He's crazy. He's like, just take your money and play. But, I watch ESPN a lot, and a lot of these players are talking about what it's like. And Tom Brady even released a statement and how, your helmet is almost a part of you. You're comfortable in it. Your head movements are, comfortable in it. But, you don't get paid $40 million to complain about your damn helmet. Like, put your damn helmet on and go earn your $40 million. Mark, I don't know about you, but this is embarrassing for the NFL, and this is embarrassing for the Oakland Raiders.
No, it really is. I watched on Hard Knocks. I'm gonna get into it more, but like their GM, brand new to Mike Mayock. He's a former NFL Network analyst, really smart, bright football mind. And he gets on, and the media is pressing him, and he just came out and said, "I've had enough." He was like, at this point, we all know what's going on with this guy. He's like, I'm in just as much of the loop as you guys are at this point, saying to the media. And he said, at this point, though, we have 90 guys on this team that are giving everything they have, and it's time for him to be all in or all out. And
embarrassing.
I think that's the gist of it. Like, Antonio Brown, every year of his career, he's become more and more of a drama queen. And that's receivers nowadays in the NFL. Odell's the same type of way. Jarvis Landry's same type of way. Like, a lot of these guys are like that, but the difference is they played the game. Like, even as much as I can't stand a guy like Odell, he would never have not played when he could. And Antonio Brown, I get the feeling Antonio Brown would hold out games for just to prove a point with the helmet, with the Steelers organization that he was upset with. It's just time and time again, he is just screwing up, and he's screwing up a career that was the closest thing that NFL had ever seen to Jerry Rice for a couple years there.
You know, you look at patterns. You mentioned Odell, and you look at really like, and you try to find when in their career, this erratic behavior started, just craziness. For Odell, it was when Josh Norman was on the Panthers. And I think that season, I don't know if you remember, but when Odell went flying at Norman and they were fighting, and then the field goal thing happened with the field goal post and his helmet, and then drama with Eli, and then drama with the staff, and then more drama. You look at Antonio Brown, and you look at the whole Vontaze Perfect Cleveland, not Cleveland, Cincinnati. You look at their rivals, and you look at when his career started to screw up. And I think once Juju entered the league, I think everything changed, and I think Antonio Brown started getting a little bit nervous, like, this is my team, and because he knew Juju's bigger than him, he's fast, and he was getting angry at Ben, and they were fighting in the locker room. I just think that Antonio Brown, once I heard him say on live TV, "I don't need the game needs me," I said, "Sir, listen, the game doesn't need you. You're a wide receiver on the Oakland Raiders. You guys are going to win 5 games this year. If you think the game needs a guy like you, there's 1,000 other guys whose names haven't been heard of, like that guy, Jalisi from the Cleveland Browns. Sleeps outside, gets one moment on the Browns, returns a touchdown. There's plenty of guys like that. And honestly, there's going to be a guy that's better than Antonio Brown. You don't need an Antonio Brown to win a Super Bowl. You don't. So that's my take on it.
I agree. You also have to look at one of the crazy statistics I've heard is that over our lifetimes, there are very few star receivers that won a Super Bowl. So that's something crazy to keep in mind too. Like, a guy like Antonio Brown loses leverage in those type of conversations. So moving on, we touched on Hard Knocks a little. I'm just gonna give like a couple takeaways that I have. It's been a lot of fun to watch. Should tune in. There's episode 4 comes out tomorrow night. There's 5 episodes in the series. Just some guys to watch out for that I've seen on Hard Knocks, and they're cool stories, and they'll be interesting to follow. Darren Waller, their starting tight end, it's looking like. Really cool story. He was playing for the Ravens in like 4 years ago, I believe. I think he got cut, and they found out afterwards that he was going through several addictions at the time, drug addictions, major drug addictions, Oxycontins and Xanax, I believe, and was like on the field in training camp getting yelled at by John Harbaugh while like under the influence. Like, he was literally sitting on the ground, totally out of energy. Well, he gets cut, refines the game of football, goes to rehab, comes back, and now he's balling out in Hard Knocks Raiders camp. He's going to be their starting tight end. He just got drafted in my fantasy draft the other night. He's somebody to watch out for. And touch on a guy, I'm not going to give his name, but a receiver out of Clemson University. He is one of the stars of Hard Knocks, and they're saying he could be the next Julian Edelman. We're going to let you touch on that in the Mark and Graham segment. But before that, real quick, College Spotlight, we did that in our first episode just to kind of introduce you to the segment. But we're getting close. You're already back at school. I'm going a week from today. Give us a College Spotlight from USF.
So my College Spotlight from USF is just the whole football team in general. So I follow them very actively. 2 years ago, 9-2, bowl game. We won the bowl game. Last year, we go 7-0. Our quarterback gets hurt. We lose our running back. We go 0-7. We finished the season 8-7. We won our bowl game. but we basically lost out at the end, and it sucked. It was the worst. This year, though, we have a healthy quarterback in Blake Barnett, who's a double transfer, but the guy slings the ball. He just happened to be at schools where bigger names are found. He went to Alabama, but he was a third string. He went to Arizona State. He was a second string. Came to USF. He's balling out. Now USF, we have one of the best tight ends in the country in Mitchell Wilcox. If you don't know his name, look him up. The guy can play in the slot. The guy can block. He's pretty much unstoppable, and he looks just like Travis Kelce too. Like I tell him all the time whenever I see him, looks just like Travis Kelce. And this Friday we play Wisconsin, and it's our first big game in a while. The Wisconsin Badgers. They're coming to us, and it's going to be a crazy game, and I just can't wait to see it. So my college spotlight goes out to the USF football team. Mark, what's your college spotlight?
I'm gonna just sort of bounce right off you, and I'm gonna go Monmouth football. They're opening next season this coming week against, is it Western Michigan, I believe. It's gonna be a fun season. Monmouth football has been on the rise lately. The past couple of years, they've been helped by the likes of Kenji Bahar, their starting quarterback, very mobile, athletic guy. P.D. Guerrero, incredible running back. He was actually came into school as a double athlete with track and field, and ended up dropping that to focus on football. He's our star running back. He made the MAC all preseason honors. Great guy. I've talked to him. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. You want to keep your eyes out for him. And a close friend of both of ours, Justin Marcus, big tight end.
Shout out J Mark.
Coming out of the same high school as Logan Marlboro in New Jersey. He's going to get some tick this year. Special teams, I think, is a strong possibility for him. Look for him to make some plays. And then next year, going into his junior and senior year, next year and the year to follow, he's a guy that I think is going to start making some serious plays at the tight end position. A tight end position that has produced NFL talent twice now with Powell, I believe, who's trying out for the Giants at the moment, and Miles Austin, receiver. But yes, he
retired, but he was on the Cowboys. He was actually pretty good. He played with Des Bryant.
And Nate Sterling is another one. He was a tight end for the Jets out of Monmouth. I just think Justin Marcus, close friend of mine, want to give him a shout out. He's somebody that I'm going to be watching every game for. And another one, not sure what kind of playing time he's going to see this year, but moving forward, Scott Prendergast, big offensive lineman. He's going to dominate in the trenches in the years to come. Monmouth football, they are my college spotlight. Now let's hear Mark and Graham of the day. Let's close out this show on a strong note. Graham, let's hear it. Hard Knocks standout. Who do you have?
So, and I gave this Graham of the day to Mark before he even brought up that he was. I never watched Hard Knocks, and I'll say that now. So I had no idea about this. But Hunter Renfrow, yes, Hunter Renfrow, the one who caught Deshaun Watson's pass in the end zone to beat Alabama in the national championship 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. I forgot how long it was. But, just a guy that's just knocking down stereotypes in the NFL. Guys like Cole Beasley. When Cole Beasley entered the NFL and the Cowboys, I was like, this guy looks like he's 12.
Sucks.
Granted, he does, and he's not bad. These little guys you throw in the slot are really good. You look at guys like Hunter Renfrow, and I saw him make a catch on Hard Knocks that might have been only a guy like him could catch it because of how small he is and how low he can get to the ground. He can make cuts. He could run deep. He can run short. You could check him down. Hunter Renfrow is going to be a weapon this year for the Raiders, and I know that John Gruden is very, very happy to have him on his team. Mark, your mark of the day.
Talked about the story a lot. Andrew Luck. Sad story, but you know who's making out big time? A guy I kind of believe in. Jacoby Brissett. Backup quarterback from the Colts. He was a Brady disciple. Backed up Brady in New England. Learned from Belichick. He's had some success at the NFL level before. He's an athletic guy. And I think that Colts team, as we talked about, has all the pieces to win now. And I really believe there's a lot of talks. The Colts organization saw this was coming for longer than we think. And I think they're comfortable with Brissett. I really think they are. I don't think they're going to make a move. I think they could possibly make a playoff run with him. I'm not necessarily saying that's going to happen, but Brissett is definitely my mark of the day because he's getting an opportunity that I saw Dan Orlovsky, former NFL quarterback, customer of mine at the store I work at, actually. Shout out him.
That's cool.
Yeah, he works for ESPN now. But I heard him say this recently, and he was a backup quarterback for most of his career, including for the Giants. He said, Jacoby Brissett, the time is yours. Go take it, because there are very few NFL quarterbacks that come into the league as a backup and get this opportunity at some point in their career. He's going to have a chance to do something special, and I'm excited to see what he does.
Not only did he have this opportunity, but he was able to come into the league as a backup quarterback under the best, the single-handed greatest quarterback coach system you've ever seen. He came in the league under Tom Brady and under Jimmy Garoppolo. And I don't know if you guys remember, but when Tom Brady was out with the suspension, they started Jimmy G. Jimmy G got hurt, and then they had Jacoby Brissett play, and he was not bad. People were like, "Yo, who's this Jacoby Brissett guy?" And that's why. And the Patriots did exactly what a good team does when a backup quarterback plays well. The Eagles, for instance, their backup plays well. They trade him to a team that needs a quarterback, and there you go. They gave him to the Colts because Andrew Luck was going through all that injury stuff. And yeah, like Mark said, I definitely think Jacoby Brissett has a chance to show himself under a good head coach, a great owner in Jim Dorsey, who's been around. Jim Dorsey knows adversity. The guy was an alcoholic and a drug addict himself, and look at him now. He's completely revamped himself. That it's a great stadium, great city, great fans, great history. And I think Jacoby Brissett's in a good position because he's not there. There are no expectations for the Colts now. Think about that. There's zero expectation. He has a great wide receiving core. He's got Quentin Nelson in the offensive line, and I think he's in a great spot. And you know what? He's not in a situation like he was in New England where he didn't really have a constant running back, but now they have Marlon Mack, and he's from USF too. So definitely agree with your mark of the day. But before we wrap up, again, subscribe, follow, like. If you guys have any show suggestions, drop them in the comment section below. Drop them on the Instagram section below. We're going to be posting highlights. We post highlights every week for you guys. We want to know what you think. We're going to be following a lot more people back on Instagram. So heads up, if you guys get a follow, click that follow back button because we want you guys to see what we're making. You guys help us. It's been a great week 5. I'm Graham, and that's Mark. Thank you guys all. We will see you guys next week.
Thank you, guys. Continue the support. We're going to keep firing back every single week. Episodes are coming out, content throughout the weeks. Thanks for listening. We're excited. We're going to keep this rolling throughout the school year. We'll see you guys.